गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मेऽस्तु। तदात्मनिरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Dear friends, in the last class we completed the last mantra of the Kenopanishad, that is the fourth khanda. The last mantra we completed and read the last lines of the Shankara Bhashyam also. In this class we have to do a summary. We can just recapitulate and we will do a summary of the whole Upanishad. So right from the beginning, let us try to recapitulate. So when we started, I was telling you this Kenopanishad is distinct from the other Upanishads. In all the Upanishads, the general structure is the Upanishads, they do examine the Jiva, that is the human being. Human being means the body-mind complex, what exactly is this body-mind complex is. Then the Jagat, or the world outside us, the universe, how it has come into existence, how is it created, etc. And then for these two things there is a cause for that. That cause is Ishvara. That Ishvara or God as we call it. So Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara. In addition, there we also talk about the Supreme Brahman who is above this Ishvara level. So that is what every Upanishad proposes. Beyond this Ishvara, there is what is called Brahma. Ishvara is only at the transactional level. But at the highest level, there is, at the absolute level, there is what is called Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhavam Brahma, which is unattached with all these things. And then all these things is only an appearance in that Brahman. So that is the ultimate theory, isn't it? The ultimate point, message. So Upanishads, they tell about that. They also tell about sadhana. What sort of sadhana you have to do, what sort of discipline, a sort of mental discipline which you have to undergo in order to attain that level, attain that Brahman. So this is what is the thing. Then at the Vyavaharika level, the Upanishads also talk about various other things like Nishkama Karma. There are various disciplines which are meant for this Chitta Shuddhi, this cleaning of mind. Cleaning of mind is a very important process, because unless the mind is clean, it cannot reflect. It cannot reflect that Brahman consciousness. So that is why this cleaning of the mind is very important. For cleaning of the mind, there are methods, important methods which are told as in the Gita, like Nishkama Karma. Then Atma Sanyama Yoga, that is Patanjali Yoga is another thing. Then Bhakti Yoga is another thing. These are the three important methods. So all the three, a combination of the three also is recommended. Not only one, but a combination of the three also is recommended. So all these things are usually discussed in the major Upanishads. If you take Brihadaranyaka, it is like an encyclopedia where everything is discussed. Then if you take Chandogya also, this is again the next largest. After Brihadaranyaka, the second largest is Chandogya, where again most of the points are discussed. But then small Upanishads like this Kenopanishad, there is usually a focus on a particular thing. Even a small Upanishad can talk about all these things like Ishavasya. Ishavasya talks about all those things. But then Kenopanishad, it focuses on the relationship between Jiva and Brahma. Not even the Ishvara. Of course, Ishvara it mentions. Ishvara it mentions and skips over and then says, okay, this Ishvara, Nedam Yadidam Upasate, this is not the supreme thing. You forget about this, go to the higher level. So this Kenopanishad, it focuses on the relationship between the Jiva and the Ishvara, then knock out Ishvara and then reach that Brahman. So this is the approach in this Kenopanishad. So here we have seen that there are four parts. Each part is called a khanda. And altogether, in all the 4 khandas, there are only 35 mantras. And then in these 4 parts, the first 2, that is the 1 and 2, parts 1 and 2, are for the Uttamadhikari, the higher level student. Higher level student means a person who has already done this sadhana, who has already attained this sadhana chatushtaya sampat, already a person who is disciplined, already who is somebody who is prepared to receive this Brahmagyana, a person who is inquisitive, not only inquisitive, who is capable of say this contemplation and this Brahma Vichara, this deliberation on Brahman, he is capable of doing that Brahma Vichara. So such a person is the adhikari in this say thing. And then the subject is the Supreme Brahman. What is this supreme thing? And basically it goes into the question of what exactly are the tools for cognition of reality from the human point of view. The human being thinks that whatever mind he has, this mind is something which is absolute. I am able to see the whole world. I am able to pass judgment on the whole world. I am able to pass judgment on the God. I am able to know what is God. So this is the human predicament, isn't it? So that is questioned in this first part, and then the discussion goes on like that. And what is the supreme? That also is told. So this is the part. This is regarding parts 1 and 2. Then parts 3 and 4 are for the Madhyamadhikari, the person who is not capable of that sort of deliberation, Brahma Vichara, who has to still probably to undergo this discipline, that is the elimination of the ego, eradication of this ego. That is the theme in that particular, in those 2 khandas, that is 3 and 4. This reduction of the, not even reduction, total vasana kshayam, this is the removal of the whole mano, nasya and vasana kshayam, as our Vidyaranya calls. This is what is required there. And then, in order to make us understand in a more pleasant way, there is a story. There is a story about gods. There is a story about how gods have a fight with the demons and how they become, they are gloating in pride. And then they feel that their victory is theirs, and then it is because of their might they have won victory and whatnot. And then the supreme God, Ishvara, though of course the word Brahma is used there, Brahma Devebhyo Vijigye, though the word Brahma is used there, there in that context we have to refer to that Maya Vachinnam Chaitanyam, that is Ishvara. So that Ishvara wants to teach a lesson to these people because he can't afford to lose his own followers, isn't it? So after all, good people are all his followers. If good people make some mistake at some point of time, we are not supposed to condemn them. We are supposed to say sit with them and then cajole them, see that they realize the truth. So that is what God does. So God teaches them a lesson. And then Indra, being being a wise man, he also realizes. Indra realizes, and then that story we see in the say the 3rd and 4th say khandas. So let us come to the text now. We will see, as we saw, the first khanda, Shankara Bhashyam, Shankaracharya gives an overview of this karma, because I was telling you, in most of these Bhashyams, Shankaracharya gives an introduction. Almost all the Bhashyams he gives an introduction. Introduction to say the then prevailing doctrines. For example, Mimamsaka doctrine was very, very prevalent. So in most of these Bhashyams, he gives an introduction to that, say what are the possibilities and limitations of karma. So he tells about that first. Because the Mimamsakas are hardcore karmavadins. So they say, okay, you do Brahma Vichara, we don't object. You do Brahma Vichara, but at the same time you do some Yajna also. So that is what they say. So Yajna is an integral part of say Brahma Vichara, that is what they say. Or rather Brahma Vichara is an integral part of say Yajna. So that is the problem. So he has to tell, Shankaracharya has to clarify. Shankara has to clarify what is the frame of mind for somebody who is a ritualist. What is the frame of mind, or what is the level of understanding of a Jnani. The level of understanding of a Jnani is totally different. That is, there is no Karta, no Bhokta, so that is the level of understanding. Akarta, Abhokta. Whereas this man, he is fully entrenched in the Kartrutva Bhavana, a person who is doing Yajna. So how can these two things be compatible? So there is a discussion about all that in say the beginning in this Shankara, in this introductory bhashya, and then he concludes that jnana is the only path for realization or liberation, but not karma, because karma is something we also saw two words there, Purusha Tantra and Vastu Tantra. This Purusha Tantra is something which is in your own hands. We have now come to the class, we are sitting here, we may come to the class, you may walk out, this is in our own, you may do a karma, you may not do a karma, you may do in whatever manner you want. This is what is called Purusha Tantra, which is under your control. Vastu Tantra is something which is not in your control. You have to know something as it is. So it is something which is dependent on that, on the very nature of a particular object, and not dependent on you. You can't say, I want to look at it this way. You can't look at it. You can't look at a flower as something else. So the Vastu Tantra means you have to know a thing as it is. So Brahma is a thing which is Vastu Tantra. You have to realize that Brahman. You have to understand what it is. It is not something to be achieved by doing some work. So that is how the Bhashyam concludes. Then the very first mantra jumps into the say question. Keneshitam patati, falls, it pounces on its objects. So this mind, as though the question itself says, by whom impelled this mind pounces on its objects, patati preshitam manaha. Like that, the Upanishad also, it pounces on the subject, it straight jumps onto the subject, and then questions, what are these instruments of human knowledge, and are they the final authority? So the basic question is, are they the final authority? And then there is a discussion about, say, the rival doctrines, how, say, the Tarkikas, for example, Tarkikas, that is the logicians, their logic is that knowledge is something which is produced in the mind. Knowledge, jnanam, is something which is produced in the mind, whereas knowledge is not something which is produced in the mind. Mind is only a jada or insentient. It is only a reflecting medium for this consciousness. So that is what Vedanta says. So the question is knowledge produced in the mind? Is this Shrotram and is this say Chakshu, etc., are they the final authority on knowledge? Or is there something which is behind them, which is something which is impelling them from behind? So that is the question. And that is basically whenever you are doing some inquiry, you have to know your own position, whether you are sitting in the proper position or not. If you want to observe a thing, you have to be in a proper position, isn't it? A frog in a well cannot observe the world outside. So like that, your own position, whether it is a blinkered approach or whether you are having a comprehensive view, whether you are having a blinkered view or a comprehensive view of an object, that we have to be very, very clear. So examining our own position is very important to know whether we are having the right perspective. So that is what this verse 1 does. Then the second mantra immediately replies Shrotrasya Shrotram, Chakshushas Chakshuhu, Pranasya Pranaha, Manaso Manaha, etc., etc. It tells. So it immediately gives the question, the teacher immediately gives the reply. Something else, there is something else which is illumining all these things. And then in the last line of that mantra, it says, in all these things, Atimuchya Dhiraha, Pretya Smallokad Amruta Bhavanti. Where is that mantra? Chakshushas Chakshuhu, Atimuchya Dhiraha, Pretya Smallokad Amruta Bhavanti. Okay, here. Pranasya Pranas, Chakshushas Chakshuhu, Atimuchya Dhira, Pretya Smallokad Amruta Bhavanti. This word Atimuchya is important. So this is what we discussed there also. Atimuchya means having negated Atma Bhava Mujhitva, Shankaracharya says, that is having rejected this notion of I, notion of self in all these things. All these things means this Indriyas and the mind. We have this Atma Bhava. Atma means the idea of self, the notion of self. What is our notion of self? A common man's notion of self. Common man's notion of self is my. I means my mind, not my mind. Mind is myself. These Indriyas are myself. So that is Atma Bhava. That I is, it looks as though it is appearing from that. So that is how we have that Atma Bhava, this notion of self in that mind only. So here the Upanishad says, Atma Bhavam Ujjitva. This is not your self. The real self is something which is behind, which is propelling, which is impelling all these things. So for this, how to discard this notion of self? You have to constantly meditate, you have to deliberate, you have to do this Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and then you have to examine all your mental vruttis. Vrutti, what are the vruttis we have? Various Shabda Vrutti, Rupa Vrutti, Sukhakara Vrutti, Dukkhakara Vrutti, etc., etc. All types of vruttis are there. And then the way to do this Atimuchya is to do this meditation that I am not the Shabda but I am its knower. I am not the Rupa but I am its knower. I am not having this Sukha or Dukkha feeling. I am only observer of all these things. You distance yourself from all these vruttis. So that is how you have to practice this thing called, this Atimuchya. So you have to dwell on the Asanga nature of Brahman. Asanga means that which is unattached. That unattached nature of yourself, the real self, which is knowledge. Knowledge or Jnanam is something which is unattached with all these things. Knowledge is only illumining all these things. So that sort of meditation one has to do. And then we have to realize that mind is not something which is independent. Then mind is something, there is an illuminer behind that mind. Then the other important word in this mantra is Pretya Small Loka Damruta Bhavanti. That is Pretya, having departed. That is, you have to die in order to attain immortality. If you tell this to a common man, that fellow will laugh at you. You have to die in order to become immortal. If you tell somebody, he will think that we have become mad. So that is what, of course, of the Upanishad says, Pretya Small Loka. Then what does it mean? So this die from this world. Die from this world, you have to leave the notion of reality, Satyatva Bhava. This Satyatva Bhava of this whole world or universe you have to abandon, you have to reject, and only then you realize yourself, and then you realize your Amrutatva Swarupa, you realize your eternal nature. So that is what it means. We are actually in a sort of death in life situation. I told you about, the words of T.S. Eliot also. T.S. Eliot, the American poet, he also says death in life and life in death. So the Upanishad says, of course, T.S. Eliot was also influenced by Upanishads. I was telling you that. To use his words, we are in a sort of death in life situation. We feel that we are living, but then we are actually moving from death to death, or moving from birth to birth. Punarjanma, what is Punarjanma? Moving from birth to birth, or moving from death to death only, isn't it? So the Upanishad says, you free yourself from all these things and realize or reach that life in death status. Pretya Amrutatva. You get over from this death in life situation and come to life in death situation. So that is what this Upanishad says. That is what this particular line means. Then the next mantra talks about Na tatra jakshur gacchati, navag gacchati no manaha. Then, because all these indriyas, etc., they are unable to comprehend. The mind is unable to comprehend. We do not know how it can be taught. How it can be taught to a student. So that is what it says. And then it also gives us a clue. Anyadeva tad viditad atho aviditad adhi. So this is a very, very important statement here. It is a very important statement because it tells about what is viditam and what is aviditam. Then in the Bhashyam there is a long discussion about what is Viditam and what is Aviditam. And Shankaracharya has pointed out that Viditam, what all is Viditam is, Yadhi Viditam tad alpam martyam etc. etc. he told. Yadhi Viditam, whatever is Viditam, whatever is known. Known means what do we mean by known? Something which has been conceptualized by the mind. Something which has been cognized by the senses and then which has been conceptualized by the mind. So whatever you have conceived, whatever you have thought of, it may be something very, very great. But then that comes under the category of idam. Of course, that idam we are going to get later. That word idam we are going to see in that nedam yadidam upasate. But here viditam means that is something which is delimited. Alpam. It is delimited by space and time. Then alpam. Martyam. Martyam means mortal. Whatever is delimited by space and time is something which is mortal. Then it is karyam, it is an effect. Then it is this whatever you are seeking now, what we call Brahman is something which is not viditam. Then the Upanishad also says it is not aviditam also. It is beyond that aviditam. What is aviditam? Aviditam is that avyaktam or avyakruta or maya or the karana for the whole thing. So this is the karana. Avyakta is the karanam for all this thing, for the manifestation of this universe, isn't it? So that aviditam also it is not. Anyadeva tad viditad atho aviditadadhi. It is beyond that aviditam also. So that is not even avyakruta. And then again, that is what the Upanishad says, Brahman is something which is beyond this karya and karana. This karya karana formula, or this sort of structure, let us say, this karya karana structure, it does not apply to this Brahman. And then what exactly is it? By elimination, it is not viditam, it is not aviditam. Elimination, what is remaining? The knower is remaining. Whoever is the knower. That whoever is that, what is that intelligence which is behind, which is there in everybody, in every jiva. So indirectly it is saying you are Brahman. Parisheshyat, you are the Brahman, it is you, because you are neither viditam nor aviditam. So it is you. And then viditam and aviditam are both upadhis. Upadhis means something which is a delimiting factor, isn't it? They are just delimiting, they are just upadhis for Chaitanya. But then they are not the, say, Chaitanya, they are not the Chaitanya itself. So Brahman is the basic, Brahman is the illuminer, means that is the substratum for both. That is the thing which is behind all these upadhis which we see. So that is what is that we saw in that mantra. And Shankaracharya also used an expression called Heyopadeya Varjitam. Heyopadeya, what is the exact word he uses is Heyopadeya Pratishedhena. Okay. Heyopadeya Pratishedhena Jnayasya Swatmanaha Ananyatvat. It is something which is not other than you. Swatmanaha Ananyatvat. It is not other than you, the perceiver. You are the perceiver. And then this, you are that Heyopadeya Viparita. That is, you are not Heyam, you are not Upadeyam. Heya is something to be rejected. Upadeyam is something to take in. So this Heya, you can't reject your own self, you can't disown your own self, you can't say that I am not what I am. Then you are also not that Avidita. You are known. Then this is what is the applicable to this Brahman, which is the infinitude or infinity. From the infinity you can't take out anything, and to infinity you can't add anything. That Heyopadeya Viparitam Brahma is nothing but you. So that is what this particular mantra says. And Shankara Bhashya also says Swatmanaha Ananyatvat. It is not other than you. Then we saw the next mantra, Yad Vachanabhyuditam Yena Vag Abhyudyate. So this again, this is a very important shloka. We spent a lot of time on this because it is making a very revolutionary statement. What is that? Nedam yadidam upasate. I like this statement very much because this is actually contemporarily relevant. Shankaracharya, of course, he analyzed the problems which were contemporarily relevant for his date. And we have to see such things which are contemporarily relevant for us. This statement is very important for us to answer our own children. Because our own children who go to schools and colleges, they ask, why, Dad, why are we having so many gods? Are there so many gods? Whereas the other religion says there is only one God. And they say that their religion is a superior religion. So this is actually happening. This is actually happening to our parents. And unfortunately, our parents cannot know. If they take some book, they can go to a bookstall and then see the books. They will see hundreds of books on Hinduism, but they will not find an answer here. So unless you read Gita, unless you read Upanishads, you will not be able to answer your children. So that is why this statement is very important. We discussed this statement and the meaning of all these things say at that time. So you have to here there are two types of critics. One is the critics of religion itself. For example, the atheists. Atheists, they say, okay, what all you worship is something what you call worship, God, heaven, etc., etc. This is all nonsense. Upanishad also says the same. Upanishad also says, what all you worship is not real. It does not say nonsense. Atheist, of course, he says it is nonsense. Whereas Upanishad says it is not real. That is only a lower degree of reality. But there is a higher degree of reality. This lower degree of reality is not nonsense. You can use it. It is an upasana. It is an upasya thing. It is something which is called upasya Brahma as against that Jnaya Brahma. So this upasyam, it is something like a crutch. It is something like an alambana. It is something like a support to you. It is something like a ladder. You get onto this ladder, and then it is something like say, some lamp post or say sign post. And using this, you reach that higher level. So that is what Upanishad says. Upanishad also agrees with this atheist to some extent. Says, yes, nedam yadidam upasate, that Supreme Brahman is not what you are worshipping. So this statement also sets a sort of limitation to what all any religion can think of Brahman. So a religion, it thinks of a Brahman in a particular way. Idam. And whatever you think is idam. So the Upanishad says, na idam yad idam upasate. Idam buddhya yad upasate. Yad idam buddhya yad janaha upasate. Tat Brahman na. So that is the meaning. Whatever people can think of, you can think of gold studded, golden or gold pavements or diamond studded pavements and diamond studded buildings in your Brahmaloka, in your heaven and whatnot, and heavenly damsels and whatnot. What all you visualize is only your own imagination, your own projection of what God is. But then that is not the reality. So you take any religion, it may be Vaishnavism, it may be Shaivism, it may be Ganapatya, it may be Christianity, or it may be any religion. You think of any religion, a religion may project a God with a form, religion may project a God without a form, but then whether you are talking about a God with form or without form, you are talking about a God with function, because you are talking about a God who is sending somebody to heaven and somebody to hell, somebody who is a sort of super cop. So long as you are talking about a super cop and something called heaven and hell as something which are permanent structure, you are in the plane of ignorance. A mighty man may come and say, my religion is supreme, but then he is talking in absolute ignorance. So that is what this Upanishad says, this line says. So this line has tremendous amount of social implication, in the sense that it is because of this we have to understand that the Indian society did not bother about all these images. You have 1,000 images, okay, fine. You visualize God in your own way. Because we see these types of upasanas, particularly an Upanishad like Chandogya Upanishad, it tells about so many types of upasanas. So all these upasanas are permitted. And Brahma Sutra, it also talks about it. Brahma Sutra, it analyzes all these upasanas, and then it very clearly says, you follow any upasana. There is one sutra which says, what is that? Avishishta phalatvat. There is one sutra. You follow anything, because ultimately you are vikalpaha avishishta phalatvat. There is one sutra like that. You follow anything, the ultimate destination is one and the same. So that is why Indian society did not bother whether you are following Hanuman, whether you are worshipping Rama, whether you are worshipping Durga, whether you are worshipping Krishna, or whether you are worshipping some Muruga. It did not bother, because all these things are accepted. All these things are accepted as upasyas. And then beyond this you have to go, because the religion, this Upanishad also says you have to go beyond religion. So these are the things which are the social consequences. So that is the reason why say we have no dispute with any other religion. The other religion, the other fellow may in his ignorance, he may say that we are say worshipping so many gods and all that, but our Upanishad is very, very clear. But what all you worship is at the level of ignorance. You have to go beyond this thing. So that is what say we see in this particular say mantra. And then, as I said, we cannot answer our children if we do not know Upanishads, if you do not read Gita. So that is the say message here in this particular mantra. Then we come to the second khanda. This Nedam Yadidam Upasate is repeated in 4-5 mantras. That of course we saw. Yes. Then Dvitiya khanda, when you come to the second part, here again we see the teacher testing the student. So he has sufficiently told about the nature of Brahman. So and the student also is quite an intelligent chap. But then teacher has a doubt. The student may think, okay, I know Brahman so well. So well means like an object. So there is a danger of objectifying Brahman. So the teacher is aware of that danger, and then he says, okay, yadi manyase suvedeti dabhrameva apinunam. Dabhrameva is one pathantaram, another thing is daharameva. Daharameva apinunam tvam vetha brahmano rupam. So that is what he says. So if you think that you have conceptualized Brahman, you have objectified Brahman in a particular way, if you think that it is known so well, then what you know is only that second version, or a duplicate version of Brahma, not the original Brahma. So that is what he says. Athanu mimamsyamevate manye viditam. Okay, if you are at that level of understanding, you have to think further, you have to brood further. Mimamsyamevate manye viditam. What all you know, it requires further contemplation. You think further. Then the student comes back. The student says, okay, naham manye suvedeti. Okay, I think, I don't think I know it quite well, in the sense that I am not objectifying it. So he attains that level of realization. And the next mantra says, in a sort of paradoxical statement, yasya amatam tasya matam. Matam yasya navedasaha. It is avijñātam vijānatam, vijñātam avijānatam. So one who says he knows it quite well, he does not know. And one who says, I have no, one who does not objectify it, one who says it cannot be known as an object, he is the one who knows. So that is the meaning of this paradoxical line. So that is those who want to know it as idam, this, that these people, they do not know. And those who do not know it as idam, they do know. Then we come to we saw the next mantra, that is pratibodha viditam matam. So this is probably the most important mantra in this Upanishad, the whole Upanishad, where the Shankaracharya also has given a lot of say bhashyam on this, a lot of commentary. What is the meaning of this pratibodha viditam? That is pratyaya pratyagatmataya viditam. Shankaracharya says, pratyaya pratyagatmataya viditam brahmayata yada tada tanmatam. That is, here we have to understand, we had a lot of discussion about what is a pratyaya. Pratyaya means a buddhi vrutti. What is a buddhi vrutti? Buddhi vrutti means, vrutti is something, vartate anaya iti vruttihi, the mind. I am seeing this pen, my mind takes the shape of this pen. I am seeing an object there, my mind takes the shape of that object. So the mind vartate anaya, it is with that idea, with the idea of a pen, with the idea of a wall I am seeing, or with the idea of a tree I am seeing outside. So this is vrutti. That is Vishayakara Vrutti, Ghatakara Vrutti, some Vrutti, or I may be having happiness in mind, Sukhakara Vrutti, Dukhakara Vrutti. So it is a sort of change in the mind, it is a sort of modification of mind as we translate it. So this modification of mind, or something like a thought frame, let us say. So this Vrutti is something which is not intelligence by itself. It is Jada, Vrutti is Jada, when Antahkaranam itself is Jada, Vrutti naturally is Jada. So, but then this is illumined by this Chaitanya. Chaitanya is illumining this Vishaya, it is illumining this Vrutti, it is illumining Antahkarana. So that is why we talk about three types of Chaitanyam. In Vedanta Paribhasha also, I quoted that Vedanta Paribhasha in that particular class. That is Vruttiyavachirna Chaitanya, Antahkaranavachirna Chaitanya, and then Vishayavachirna Chaitanya. All these three have to merge. So that is what is called the cognition of a particular thing. So this particular modification of mind itself is Jada, but then it is reflected by this Chaitanya. So, but then this Vrutti is called Chaitanya Abhivyanjaka. That is again a line from Vedanta Paribhasha, not from this Shankara Bhashya. That is a general, because it is generally relevant for us to know what is a Vrutti. I quoted from that. Jnanavachedakatvena jnanatvam. For that we figuratively use the word jnanam. Vrutti jnanam we call it figuratively, because it is a jnanavachedakam. It is as though it is delimiting knowledge. It is as though it is delimiting the Chaitanya. And we also talked about the examples of the electricity and bulbs and all these things. All these gadgets which are there, these are all upadhis. In all these upadhis, this electricity is getting known. It is getting known through various upadhis. So if you are looking at the upadhi, you will see upadhi. But if you want to detect electricity, there is no other way apart from this, say, upadhi. Upadhi alone is something which gives you an indication whether electricity is there or not. You have to switch on a light to switch on. You have to switch the switch. You have to on that switch in order to know whether there is electricity or not, isn't it? So that is why Shankaracharya says there is an interest. There is a very important statement he made. Nanyadvaram antaratmano vijnanaya. There is no other way. Pratyayaireva pratyayeshu avisishtataya lakshyate. So by these pratyayas and in these pratyayas, avisishtataya, as though mixed up, it is lakshyate, it is indicated, not drushyate, it is lakshyate, indicated. Nanyadvaram antara atmano vijnanaya. So this antaratmana, you can break it in two ways, whatever manner it is. But the meaning is, there is no other way to know Brahman other than this pratyayas. Just as there is no other way to know about electricity other than these bulbs and all these gadgets, there is no other way to know Brahman. So this is this vritti is called jnana because of it in a figurative sense, and the presence of electricity is only known through gadgets, and the presence of fire. Of course, Shankaracharya's time there was no electricity. He gives the example of fire. What is that? Ayah pinda. So he gives the example of an iron ball. So this fire, the presence of fire is only known through that upadhi called ayah pinda. So similarly, the presence of Chaitanya is only known through this antahkarana and antahkarana vritti. So that is what we saw. And I also quoted one line from Panchadashi. Yasmin yasmin asti loke bodhaha tattad upekshane yad bodhamatram tad brahma. That is from the 3rd chapter of Vedanta Panchadashi. That is, whatever cognition is there, yasmin asti loke bodha, whatever cognition you have in the loke in the world, whatever cognition you have, there you reject that cognition, in the sense that you reject that nama and rupa. You reject the nama rupa and just see the brilliance, just see the Chaitanya, just see the jnanam which is illumining it. And then tad bodhamatram chaitanyam, tattad upekshane yad bodhamatram tad brahma. Whatever remains, that bodhamatram, you remove all these nama rupa, then just see this sat and chit, just see those things only, then that is what is called Brahma. That is what Paribhasha says. So in this mantra what we saw was, if I am seeing a ghata, I am not seeing a ghata, I am seeing Brahman. So this ghatakara vritti, usually we think that we know ghatam, but here this mantra says, through ghatakara vritti I have to know Brahman. So this is what is to be practiced by a jnani. The implication is that the jnani is already in that state, and a seeker, he has to practice this thing in order to achieve that level. So this is what is pratibodha viditam, pratyaya pratyagatmataya viditam. So this is an important thing which we saw. Then we come to the say phalam. Phalam means the usefulness of this particular thing, this type of knowledge. He says amrutatvam hi vindate. Amrutatvam means knowing oneself as not buddhi. So knowing oneself as not a mere gadget, so but as electricity. Knowing oneself as not buddhi but as Brahman. So all these names and forms are negated, and then you have to be in your original form of Sat and Chit. So that is what he says, Amrutatvam hi vindate. Then we come to, this is the most important shloka or mantra. Then we come to the next khanda, that is the 3rd khanda, Trutiya khanda, which is called Yakshopakhyana. So this Yakshopakhyana we know, as I said just now, this 5th mantra also is there in the same, say, the 3rd, 2nd adhyaya. The 5th mantra also, of course, I skipped. The 5th mantra says, this Brahman has to be realized here itself. Iha ched avedid atha satyamasti. So this Brahman has to be realized here only, and it cannot be postponed. Because here means in this human janma only, because this human janma is the karma bhumi. So that is again an important thing which we have to remember, because Deva janma, or some other Janma, Tiriyak Janma, they are only Bhoga Bhumis. Bhoga means enjoying or experiencing the fruit of action. It may be enjoyment or suffering. So Devaloka you are enjoying, in some other Tiriyak Janma you are suffering. So you are experiencing the fruit of that action there. So there is no scope for karma. Devaloka there is no scope for karma. Tiriyak Janma there is no scope for karma. The only place where there is scope for karma is this karma bhumi, which is human life. So that is why this mantra says, Iha cheda vedi atha satyam asti. So again, bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhiraha. So in everything you see, you have to have that Brahmatma bhava. Pretyasmal lokad amruta bhavanti. Again the same statement. You have to die in order to become eternal. Then here ends this the second khanda. Then we come to this third khanda where this Akhyayika is told. Akhyayika means a story. So this Upanishad. So we see the paradoxical thing or ironical thing in the thing in Vedanta is the same Upanishad which talks about the supreme level Brahman. It also talks about the lower level. It also talks about the support or the alambana or the crutch which you have to use in order to come to that level. So that is what we see here. So here the theme is ego eradication. So that is the main theme, because they tell about say this gods and demons. Gods and demons, they have a fight, and then the supreme say Ishvara. Ishvara, of course, he sees to it that the gods win, but then these gods, they take pride. They take pride that say asmakam evayam vijayah, asmakam evayam mahima, etc., etc. They take pride. It is our own. It is because of our own strength that we have won. It is because it is all our own greatness. So this kartrutva bhavana has entered in their minds, and this kartrutva bhavana is not supposed to be there. There again we discussed the fine distinction between determinism and free will. I told you that this is not about determinism and free will, it is about kartrutva bhavana. So in that class I explained to you that say we should not think that everything is determined, I have nothing, everything is God. So this sort of pseudo say fatalism, it is not talking about a pseudo fatalism. It is talking about, because Vedanta accepts both free will and determinism. Free will is very much there, otherwise there will be Shastranarthakyam, isn't it? So free will is very much there for a human being. So here in this episode we are not talking about that question. We are talking about Kartrutva Bhavana. These gods, they were thinking that they were the Kartas, the Kartrutva Bhavana. So that Kartrutva Bhavana has to go. And Devas, being what they are not supposed to slip from their position. They are not supposed to slip from their position of wisdom. So that is why Ishvara was also rather unhappy that these fellows, my own followers, these fellows have forgotten their, say what they are supposed to know, their basics they have forgotten. So all these stories we have seen that like in Puranas also, in several Puranas also we come across these stories where God intervenes and then rectifies a person. In that context, we also discussed in that class, when we were discussing this mantra, we also discussed, I also referred to the story of Bali and Vamana. Bali symbolizes ego, that great sense of ego, that he symbolizes that ego. And then Vamana goes and then he asks for 3 feet of land. And that again symbolizes 1 foot, symbolizing all his earthly achievements. Bali was somebody who was the ruler of the whole universe. So the all earthly achievements were say taken by Vishnu. Then the second is all heavenly achievements. So the Vishnu spread 1 foot in the sky means all heavenly achievements of Bali are gone. Where is the third one? Third one is on his ego. On his head means on his ego. So that ego eradication was the message in that Bali Vamana say story. So like that, in several stories of Puranas, this ego eradication etc. That will be the main theme. So like that here also, Ishvara intervenes, and Agni, Vayu and Indra, these are the 3 types of gods we saw. I explained to you Agni, Vayu and Indra represent Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha. So all one level of gods. Gods again means various divine forms various expressions of the same consciousness which are useful for us. These are all Aditya, Rudra, Vasu. We also call them in some other words for the same people are Aditya, Rudra and Vasu. So these are the beings which are say there in us, and again enabling us to live, enabling the human being, not only human being, all the beings to live. So that is why we call them Devas. We call them Agni, we call Agni a Deva, because without Agni the human body cannot be there. Without Vayu the human body cannot be there. So like that, all these things are called Devas because they are influencing our very existence. They are enabling our very existence. So that is the point there. So then these people, they go and then they try to, Agni goes and tries to burn that blade of grass. Agni cannot burn, which means your ego, with your ego you are not able to know Brahman. He could not burn means he could not know. Similarly, why you could not lift it means why you could not know it. Indra, being a wise man, he did not retreat. He stood there only in that Chidakasha, and then he started meditating. What has gone wrong with me? So he started meditating. And in that meditation, then he realized, and that meditation actually leads to that realization only. So, and that realization is again symbolized as Brahma Vidya. That Brahma Vidya is again a sort of personification in the form of Uma. He is shown in that fourth khanda. So, in the beginning of the fourth khanda, we see this Uma. That is a personification of this Brahma Vidya is shown in that story. And that is why I also refer to Shankaracharya's line about Brahma Vidya. Tamev Adyam Brahma Vidyam Upase Murtair Vedaihi Stuyamanam Bhavanim. So that is, in one Tripura Sundari Stotra, Shankaracharya writes, Tamev Adyam Brahma Vidyam. So that is Adya Brahma Vidya, the first one, that is that Brahma Vidya. So we are referring to this Uma. So Shankara Bhashya also, Vaisa, who is this Uma? Is she Himavan's daughter? Or whatever it is, she is symbolizing that Brahma Vidya. So that is what we saw. And then this fourth khanda also gave two similes rather, to explain how this dawn of Brahma Vidya takes place in a mind. So this Brahma, this realization of Brahman is something like a flash. It is something like a lightning, something like a flash of a lightning, or something like just the flapping of an eyelid. It just takes place in a flash. But not everybody. Just takes place in a flash means already one should have a prepared mind. The mind should be already drenched in that Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. A continuous drenching of Shravana Manana Nididhyasana has to be there, and then only in such a mind this this flash of lightning takes place. Like in the case of Indra. Indra did not retreat like Agni and Vayu. Indra stood there in that Chidakasha and then he was meditating. That meditation, the word meditation also was very specifically mentioned by Shankaracharya. So in that meditation only he got that flash of Uma. That is, he saw that Uma in that Chidakasha. Then the similes given were Vidyuto, Vyadyutada, Chakshusho, Nimeshanam, like a flash of a lightning, like the flashing of an eyelid, etc., like the flapping of an eyelid. So something like that, the expressions were given in this Upanishad. And then the next mantra talks about Gacchati vacha manaha, how you have to do Upasana, how are you supposed to catch hold of this Brahman. You have to have confidence in yourself, you have to meditate as though your mind is going and reaching that Brahman. So that is what we were told. And then when coming to the end of this Upanishad, we saw some words like Tadvanam, Tasya Tadvanam Nama. That for that Brahma Vidya, it is called Tadvanam. So because Tadvanam means Vananiyam, Bhajaniyam, that which is respected, that which has to be worshipped by all. What is that? Because why is so? Because it is the Pratyagatma of everything. This Brahman is the Pratyagatma of everything. So that Brahma Vidya is something which is respected, which is worshipped by all. So that is what we saw there. Then at the end, again there is a discussion. Towards the end, there is again a discussion whether again there is a need for this karma, upasana, etc., etc. Because there is a mantra which says, at the end of this shloka, at the end of this Upanishad, The student again asks a question. The student, the Upanishad itself is making the student ask this question, because the Upanishad knows that in spite of telling so many times, the human mind still wants some karma. The human mind is still incredulous, rather. It is still incredulous. When the Upanishad says you are Brahman, you are unwilling to believe. You are still more comfortable with the duality, in the plane of duality. You are very comfortable in the plane of worship, etc., etc. So, Upanishad is putting words in our mouth, and then it is asking this question. Upanishadam bho bruhi iti uktata Upanishad brahmim vavata Upanishad brumeti. So, this is the question and answer by the teacher and the student and the teacher. So, this man says, okay, oh teacher, is there time or over? The student asks, is there, you please tell me the Upanishad, is there anything else? Is there anything else I have to do? Is there something like karma, tapas, etc., etc.? So, this man says, the teacher says, Uktata Upanishad. Upanishad has been told to you, there is nothing further. Brahmim vava. The same Brahmi Upanishad we have told you, nothing else, no duplicate Brahman. We have not told about any duplicate Brahman, we have told about the real Brahman. So that is what it says. And the next mantra, of course, says, again the preparatory stages it refers. Say, for example, Tasyai tapodamah karmeti pratishtha vedas sarvangani satyam ayatanam. So here again we may get a doubt that at the end, Upanishad is prescribing tapas, dhamma, etc., karma. All these things are the pratishtha. Pratishtha means the feet, that is the base, that is something like a pedestal. And Vedas sarvangani. Veda also, you can take it as a pedestal, or you can take it as head and various limbs. So that is what we saw in the Bhashyam. Then Satyam Ayatanam. The whole structure has to depend on your truthfulness, your Arjavam, Satyam, Arjavam, the straightforwardness, truthfulness. So that is the meaning of Satyam. So this on this mantra, Shankaracharya has again discussed, because there can be a doubt whether the Upanishad is prescribing all these things as part of Brahma Vidya. And the Bhashyam makes it very, very clear that it is not part of Brahma Vidya, not Sheshataya, not as Shesha means say as a limb, as part and parcel of that Brahma Vidya. It is neither a Shesha nor a Sahakari. We saw two words there. It is neither a Shesha nor a Sahakari, but then they are both useful at the preliminary level for Chitta Shuddhi, for cleaning of your mind, but then they are not part and parcel of Vichara. So that was made very clear, because in this karma and all these things, there is a Kartrutva Bhavana. And in this Jnana, it is beyond Kartrutva Bhavana. These two things, they cannot coexist. Karma is always in search of some fulfillment. You have to get something, you have to fulfill yourself. So karma, the very concept of karma, it is something which originates from your sense of incompleteness. Whereas Jnanam is something which is complete in itself. Karma is incompleteness, Upasana is incompleteness. Karma, Upasana, Yoga, all these things are manifestations, not manifestations. They are all indications of incompleteness. They are all in the plane of duality. Karma is in the plane of duality, Upasana in the plane of duality, all acts of Dharma, Karma, all these are in the plane of duality, whereas Jnanam alone is beyond that plane of duality. So Shankaracharya, he explains all these things. And in the last shloka, last mantra, he says, Keneshitam ityadina yathoktam evam mahabhagam. He says this Brahma Vidya is something like a mahabhaga. This Brahma Vidya is something which is a very, very great thing, which leads us to that Brahma Sthiti. So that is why it is called Mahabhaga. So that is how we saw this whole Upanishad. And then this Brahma Vidya, the ultimate message is, the mind and the senses, they are not direct, they are not the final authority on knowledge, they are impelled by something else. So that is one thing. And then this Upasana, etc., they are not dismissed by the Upanishad. Upasana, etc., they are all useful. Even in this second part of this text, that is third khanda and fourth khanda, this Upasana is very close to Brahma Vidya. Though it is called Upasana, it is a higher level of Upasana of that Ishvara. and not some lower level of upasana of some some god form for some individual, for some abhyudaya, for some benefit. So that is what we saw here. So the overall message is that you have to do that meditation and then you have to achieve Brahman. And once if you are a higher level student, you have to do that say practice of pratibodha viditam. In every pratyaya you have to see that Brahman. So that Brahman awareness is what is taught in this particular Upanishad. So we will complete here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.